Brendan, after last week, what have you said to the team? What do you do to make sure that there's no hangover from what happened at Kilmarnock?
Well, I think what's important to understand when you're trying to be successful is that losing and failing in games is integral to becoming successful. So yeah, it was a disappointing result for us. Of course, didn't do enough to win the game, but it's also something you have to have at a club this size. You have to have that mental strength and that mental toughness to cope with disappointing results and then be ready to go again. And that's what the players have been. They've been outstanding this week in training, and we'll look to take that into the game. In
that sort of perverse way, do you have to then use it as not necessarily a wake-up call, but this is the demands on the club and this can happen, make sure it doesn't happen again, or use it for growth?
Yeah, listen, it will happen again. I think that there's absolutely no doubt about that. You lose games of football. For us, it's very early stages of a process that we're in. We're obviously not helped by the numbers of injuries and whatever we have, but we're in a process where the players will get better, the game idea will look better, but it's just at the beginning of that process. So, but whilst you're finding your rhythm and the quality of your game, clearly you have to get results, and that's why we're here.
Is the right phrase looking for a reaction, or is it just moving on to the next?
Moving on, yeah. But of course, you always have to respond to losing games. But you understand that, the victories you want, of course, and especially after you lose a game.
You mentioned injuries. Can you just give us a kind of roll call on where you're at?
Yeah. It's obviously disappointing for us in terms of Cameron Carter-Vickers, Mike Naroki and Stephen Welsh, probably about 8 weeks. So Stephen Welsh obviously had an operation just the other day, so he's come through that well. The other two, we were hopeful that they would be back sooner, but with sort of further scans on them puts them at probably about 8 weeks from now. So Rio Atati will be back international break during that. We got Mikey Johnson will be next week. We've got Kobayashi will be in the international break, and we'll return next week to training. Alistair Johnson's back, which is great news for us. He's trained well and will be available for the weekend.
What's Mike's issue, Borowski?
It was just literally, if you see the last moments of the game, he pulled up with his hamstring, just right at the last 10 seconds of the match at Kilmarnock. So yeah, it's a real shame. Like I said, obviously Cam and him, especially Cam in terms of pre-season, probably wasn't able to go through the pre-season with us. So this is a real disappointment for him, because he's worked very hard to be back, but it's just unfortunate, really. So yeah, so those guys will be out for that period of time.
Will this make you move in the window, Brendan, for reinforcements in that area?
I think we have to look at it. There's no doubt. It's an area that we're light on. Like you say, when you're losing 3 players for that length of time, and knowing that the number of games that we will have and the importance of every game, then it's definitely something we have to look at.
And you said last week after Kilmarnock that you wanted to bring quality in the conversations that you or the club's having. Are you making any inroads in terms of that?
Yeah, I think we'll do that before the end of the window. I think the game last week, we could have been 2-0 up in the first 10 minutes of the game, but after that, and especially when Kilmarnock went in front, we just didn't quite have that little bit of finesse and that little those moments of magic, really, that you need to break down teams that are low on the field. So we're hoping that we can do that over the course of the coming days.
You're quite calm with the situation, because obviously there's a couple of setbacks for you.
Yeah. Listen, you have to be. It's, as I said, we've got other players that will provide an opportunity for. These are things that happen within the game. It's just really, really unfortunate for those players. Of course, we would love to have them available, and that makes the squad much stronger. However, they're not. So we have to work well And like I said, the guys have worked really well this week.
Will this impact on Liam Scales? I don't know if he was perhaps going to go out on loan or leave. Does he now come into your thoughts for the weekend, for the next 2 months?
Yeah, I've said before, I really like Liam. I think there's been a partnership here for over the last couple of years with the guys, and of course Carl leaving and Cam being injured for a lot of the pre-season and now means that there's change there. So, but with the numbers down, of course, Liam will play a part.
Just to go back to the transfers, you've been linked with the winger Palma, plays for Thessaloniki in Greece. Do you know anything about that? Is that an area you are looking to strengthen?
Well, I think we need to improve the squad, but there's no confirmation on names. There's been lots of names that have been floated about. So, so as soon as we sign anyone, we'll let you know.
You talk about lots of names, and even with the centre backs and the injury crisis you've got at the moment. When you're looking at the market, would you prefer to bring in a player that the club have kind of been doing over the last few years, maybe a 21, 22-year-old with a lot of potential, or would you rather bring in someone more experienced, perhaps a little bit older, that can come in and start right now, almost be one of the leaders in it?
Yeah, ideally. I think especially at centre half, it's a specialised position where, for me, the experience always helps. So we've got a lot of young players in the squad, but naturally, to bring those players on and bring them through, they need to play with players not just of experience, but players of quality. So you need to hopefully try and align both, because you'll see the best of those players. The guys that are young and developing and dealing with the expectation. If they can play alongside the guys that's going to pull them through and then bring out that potential, ideally that's what you want. So that's something that we'll look at.
Just on Rio Tata, you say he's out until the international break. There's been talk this week as well around his contract. Do you know if there's any talks happening there? There's been suggestions it might be put on hold until the end of the transfer window. Do you know anything about that?
No. Listen, I have regular communication with Michael Nicholson, and we speak on a daily basis. So no, it's something that's been ongoing for even from before I arrived. So yeah, but there's no update on it. We just look forward to him coming back.
How big a player do you see him at the club as a player under yourself here?
Yeah, no, I think he's going to be a really important player. Over the course of the pre-season, it was the case of looking at all the players and see where they're at. And like I said, I haven't worked with a lot of these guys, so I'm fresh in. And of course, you're looking to see how they work. But I think after that first game, Rio recognised the following week his quality, his intensity in training was at a really, really good level. And then obviously came into the Aberdeen game, and you could see when he first arrived in that they had that mentality back. So it was really unfortunate that he got injured. But for me, he's clearly a very good player, and of course I want to work with good players.
And obviously Gustav made a debut last week. He's obviously going to be a key man over the next couple of months, it seems, with the injuries there. You feel that might help him even just to hit the ground running, just to accept that responsibility and be a key player?
Yeah, he's a very mature guy for someone who looks so young. But no, he's up to speed in terms of games. He was only arrived into the building within a couple of days, and obviously he's thrown into a tough away game like away at Kilmarnock. So, but I've got absolutely no doubt he will prove over time to be an excellent player for Celtic. And like I said, he's really up for the challenge, and I'm looking forward to seeing that development.
Brendan, can I just ask you about Kieran Tierney? Firstly, is there any chance he could come back to Celtic in any loan capacity this season?
Listen, I would never speak about Kieran other than the time that I had him here. He's an Arsenal player, and that's where he's at. In
terms of him just now, knowing him well, do you feel he's a player that is too good to be on the bench? He has to play games, and you'd like to see him playing games even to help the national team as well?
Well, I think for himself, Kieran will want to play. He's not a young player anymore. He's a player that will want to play football, no doubt. Especially where he was with Arsenal for his first couple of years, and at times captain in the club. So Obviously they got a really strong squad. Mikel's done a fantastic job there, but for Kieran himself, I'm sure he'll be looking to go out and play. But yeah, that's the way I would see it.
St Johnstone this weekend, they've had a poor start to the season. It's been difficult for Stephen McLean. How do you see this game and how tough it's going to be for you?
Well, for us, we have to impose our intensity in the game and our work. Every game will be a challenge, and we know that. But I'm really looking forward to playing at home. At the first game, which was a great atmosphere, we've been away for a couple of games. Feels like longer, but the chance to come back home and play and get back on track again feels really good. So I'm looking forward to be a full house, and we'll be ready for it.
Ready to just come back to the defensive position. Given you're short, is there any possibility, do you think, of you making any inroads before this weekend's game on that front?
I wouldn't have thought so.